Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Fitness Geek. I'm Ramakant Adichi, and we are going through our Microsoft Fabric first hands-on experience. So first of all, let's go ahead and create a workspace for us. I have created a free trial for my, Microsoft Fabric. So I'll just quickly create a workspace. I'll name it Fitness Geek. If we go to Advanced, you will see we are creating a trial. So it is giving me 60 days of free trial, so I'll be using that. So I have created my Microsoft Fabric workspace. Let's go ahead and explore what's available. If you click on this new, you will see all the available options. The first few, the report, paginated report, scorecard, dashboard, these are the usual ones that's available in Power BI. The new ones are the data set, the data flow gen 2, the data mart, which you had in your premium tier in Power BI. So all those are available. So if we go through individual ones, the data set, as it says, continue, combine data sources in a data set to visualize or share it. In your data flow, you will be actually transforming your data. Data flow gen 2 is in preview. Same, it will obviously be a newer version of the data flow, which will be used in transformation, the data mart. And if we see all you have all the categories that's available in your Microsoft Fabric, the data engineering, the Power BI, the data warehouse, the data factory. So all these are part of the entire Microsoft Fabric. The Lakehouse, we will quickly go ahead and create our first Lakehouse. But before we do that, let's see the differences between the data warehouse and our Lakehouse, even the Power BI data mart. So if you see my screen, the data volume for your data warehouse and Lakehouse is unlimited because it's backed by your Azure data lake. So that the data lake version 2, that's what is being backed by. The Power BI data mart gives you the 100 GB, the premium capacity thing. Type of data in your data warehouse, you have your structured, the usual SQL based kind of structured data. In your Lakehouse, you have anything that you want to put in, the Parquet, CSVs, everything. For primary developer persona, the data warehouse is more suitable for your BI engineers, the SQL engineers, whereas the Lakehouse is suitable more for your data engineers and the data scientists. Let me jump into the read and write operations. In your data warehouse, you use your Spark and T-SQL to read operations. Same as for Lakehouse. But when you need to write data into it, in your data warehouse, you use your T-SQL, while in Lakehouse, you'll be using the Spark, which will, you can use anything, Scala, PySpark, Spark SQL, or R, just like you used to do it in Synapse. The scenarios where you would like to use a data warehouse versus a Lakehouse or a Power BI data mart. So the first scenario, if you look at it, so Susan, a professional developer. So for example, if you're coming from a background of the usual SQL SQL BI stack, the if you have been writing SQL to get results out of your data. And for example, if you see this particular scenario, Susan has been spending she has spent years building data warehouse on relational database engines. So for that purpose, because she is experienced with actually SQL based queries and how to make write BI based queries on a SQL database, data warehouse is suitable for us, suitable for her. The scenario 2, where Rob is a data engineer who comes from Apache Spark background. He has been writing notebooks to read and write data into the data lakes. So for him, if he, like, it's more suitable to have a lake house where he can he has basic skills of SQL, T-SQL, so he can read data from the lake house using the SQL endpoint. But to write data into it, he will be using the Spark based notebooks. So in this case, you use the lake house. And the third would be the Power BI, the data mart, where you want to build a like your experience with data, where your experience with Power BI, and you just want to create a data set out of it, and you create a star schema and a data mart in Power BI itself. But okay, let's go ahead and create our first lake house. So we have created our lake house, and this is the Lakehouse Explorer. On my left, on the left side of the screen, you can see the tables and the files. So the tables are nothing but the delta tables, and the files would be the actual files that we have stored in our data lake, or the lake house as we speak. So let's go ahead and load some data in our lake house. I've created a pipeline. So this is a basic copy data copy data pipeline that I'm gonna create. These are the connectors available. As we know, Microsoft is pretty good in terms of creating the connectors. So you can fetch data from your Amazon RDS for SQL Server, from Amazon Redshift, from Amazon S3, and so on. So you can go ahead and look at all the available connectors that you can fetch data from. My only concern is what if there are there is data inside the VNet and or on premises. So I'm pretty sure like as we had in our Synapse and in Data Factory, the self-hosted agents that we used to install, probably that would be the case here as well, but I'm not sure yet because I haven't tried. Let's just select SQL Server, and if I try to create a new connection, it doesn't tell me whether I would be able to create a self-hosted one, because authentication type is always the basic. So I'm a bit concerned, but probably once it is in GA, it might have a lot more features than that is available right now. Anyways, we will be loading some quick data into our data, not data, but our lake house. So let's, before doing that, if you see my screen, I'm not able to create, a self-hosted agent or anything, but all right. So let's create a sample data set from diabetes that's available. That's a sample data set. I'm just gonna load that into my lake house. So I'm creating my existing lake house that we created earlier. I'm gonna click next, and it gives you these options now. You can either load that data as a delta table or as a file itself. You can have either an append or an override. As the name speaks, if you already have the particular table available, it will append to it, or you can override. Let's look at the files option. You can create that dataset as a file, but our first goal is to just load it as tables. Let's do that. I'll give it a name, let it append, click OK, and in the options I'll just click on that checkbox, and I clicked OK, and my pipeline has completed. So if I go back to my Lakehouse Explorer, the table is now available. I can see that in my Explorer pane that the table has been loaded as my delta table. These are the options that's available. These are the columns that was available in my the data set. You can work with notebooks. As I spoke earlier, in Lakehouse you can only write data via the Apache Spark, the notebooks, but you can read data from the SQL endpoint. You can see my screen, the SQL endpoint is now available. We will explore that as well, but for now let's just check what's available here. You can rename it, you can delete, you can view the files, you can view the properties. And if you click on that particular the data set, you will have a preview of the data on the right hand side of your screen. And these are few data sets that I have already loaded. And if you want to see the lineage of that particular data set, if I click on that, it takes me there in my workspace. If I click on my workspace here, and it on the right hand top You will see there are two views that's available. One is the lineage view that shows me this, that my lake house has got a particular data load pipeline that has loaded the data. And then the fitness geek Lakehouse SQL endpoint, which was used by the data set, and I created a demo report out of it. So this gives me a good lineage of my entire process. This is my workspace settings. If you see my screen, currently I'm on my trial. You can link your Azure Data Lake Gen 2 storage, which is very good. So if you have other storages that you want to link to your workspace, you can do that. If you see the system storage, I've currently got 9 GB available. That's because of the trial version. We'll come to know more about the offerings in future once it is generally available. You have Git integration, so you can have your Azure DevOps utilized here. You can link all your data, all the work that you have into your Azure DevOps repo, so you'll have a version control. So that is another good thing that I saw in Microsoft Fabric. It uses my AAD account, so that's good. I can link it to a project, and I'll be able to connect and sync with my Azure repo. And then the basic Power BI and data engineering settings. If we go to the Spark Compute, here you will be able to create your the Spark cluster. If you remember, in Synapse we used to create your the Spark clusters. It is the look and feel is very much similar to that. So you can create there's a starter pool that already spins up for me for the trial version. You can create your own as well. The runtime is 1.1, the Spark 3.3, Delta 2.2. That is good enough. And then the library management. So you can add your, upload your libraries that you want. From here in the Spark Compute, currently the pool is the node family is the memory optimized, and 1 to 10, that's your starter pool that it provides. You can always add the properties that you want. Here I don't need that anymore, so I'll go up, and this is my node family. That's all right. Node size is medium. Let's create, if you want, you can create a new pool. If you click on that, it will take you to this page where you can get the name, the node family, the node size, whether you want it to auto scale or not. You can as per your requirement, you can create your Spark cluster. I'm not going to create now because I don't need it, but yes, you will need it, and you might have to go through this. So this is all about the workspace settings that's available in Microsoft Fabric. Let me cancel that for now. Let's go back to our workspace. So if you see, we can create our first report. Let's go ahead and click on our, create a report out of our Lakehouse. I'm gonna select this Fitness Geek Lakehouse that we created. We had some, so you have now options to create or to create report or create a blank report. This part was a bit buggy. I was not able to pre-select data. I clicked on it, but I was not able to. So this is the AI based reports that it generates. So I'm a bit skeptical because if it is using AI, obviously you'll have to tune it much better. Right now it creates a report which is not that perfect. This is the auto create report from the dataset. Maybe going forward this will improve, and you will not have to create reports. But this report is created by the AI and doesn't make much sense with the data set I have. That's where the human intelligence come in, and you understand the data, what it is based off, and you create a report out of it. But this is the AI based auto create report. And yeah, I have loaded another data set into my the lake house, which is the public holidays. This is I mean, I won't be going through it in this video. I'm just telling you that I've loaded the public holidays 500 KB Parquet file as well. That's available in my one lake. So if I go here, this in my one lake, that's my lake house. These are the other lake houses that I have created. That was just when I was trying to test and learn what it is all about. So this is my lake house on the right side. uh, so these are the details. On the right side, you can, this is the place where you will open the lake house. You click on it and it will take you to the lake house navigation pane, the Lakehouse Explorer. You will have tables and files. So whenever you have delta tables, it will show you under the tables category, and if you have any files loaded, it will show under the files. I had this bug where it went into the unidentified, the file that we loaded. The data that we loaded was under this, and I had to refresh it. So once I refresh it, it showed as a delta table, and I was able to navigate and load the data and have a preview. So this was all the delta tables. I would also, I also tried loading data as CSV files and Parquet files into it. I'll show you later in this video. So this is the data that I loaded, the holiday underscore data as a delta table. It looked good so far. The experience is a bit wild because there are too many things happening, and if you are someone who works on everything, then it's gonna be a nightmare. But so far so good. Let me create a new report. These are my the data options that the data my data, the data that I've loaded already. And you can have the lineages, you can delete them. So there are lots of options available. Now that I've created another, I've loaded another data set, and I've created another report. The lineage looks a bit different. Let's create a new project, new report. But this time we will not be using the auto create, the AI to build me a report. If you see this auto create, if I tried to see if I can pre-select, this time it worked. So I selected one particular column, but then it started showing me some errors. And this is still a bit buggy, and I think the overall experience will improve as we go ahead and Microsoft keeps building on top of it. So these were a few errors that I saw, and probably it will get fixed in future. So I just went ahead and created a basic report myself rather than allowing the AI to create it. I selected all the this is just a basic report. Selected all the columns from the holiday data, and then I created a chart, a bar chart out of it. And I was just playing around. I was just trying to explore what's available in Microsoft Fabric. uh, so it's more of a learning, kind of hands-on learning what I was trying to do, and I'm just trying to share that with you. So this entire Microsoft Fabric, if you see, you're in the same Microsoft Power BI service, but there are lots more happening. There are lots more things to explore, and lots of new things getting added. So you will need to know everything before you can start working on it. We have created our lakehouse. We created data pipelines. We added data. Let's create our first notebook. So I click on the data engineering side. I click on my first notebook. If you see, it says welcome to your new notebook. Type here in itself. So this is the basic, the notebook experience. Let's add the lake house. We have an existing lake house, so we'll add that. I'll go ahead and add the fitness geek underscore lake house. Once added, if you see on my left hand side of the notebook, you will see the tables and the files. The tables, the diabetes underscore data and the holidays underscore data, that's available now. Let's load data as Spark. If you see my screen, it has generated the code itself. df equals to spark.sql, and it reads as a SQL star from the fitness geek underscore lakehouse dot the diabetes underscore data, and it limits to 1000, and then the display the data frame. It was AI generated. I have not written that code myself, so that's quite good. While it is running, this is this is the part of AI. You don't have to memorize the code. You don't have to have the code in your head. The AI will generate the code for you, and you just need to know how it works. And this has displayed the first 1000 records from our data frame. That is all good. So this works. The AI generated the code, and I did not have to go through the documentation to see how I would write my first code to read the data from the delta table. So that was good. On the files, I have not loaded any files yet. I have not loaded any CSV files. Let me export these results as CSV. I'll try to load that. If you see on my screen, you get the ABFS path and you get the API path, although or the HTTP path. It will tell you where like what the file path is. That's all good. Let's create a new pipeline in our data factory to load the CSV data as files. We'll be loading data as as a file. So these are the options when you start building up your data pipeline. You can choose a template, you can copy data. These are the templates that's available. This is basically the data factory experience that you would have already had. We don't need that. The copy data task, that will give you a few templates, the sample data, and then the other data sources that from where you can get your data. And then the add pipeline activity, the copy data, the delete data, the data flows, and the store procs, all the data activities that you had in your data factory, that's available here. But for now, let's just do a copy data, and we'll be loading a CSV file. So let me click on copy data, and I'll be selecting a CSV file. So let's go to the sample data for COVID-19 data lake, and the format is CSV. That's perfectly fine for me. I'll be loading that into my Lakehouse. I'll click next, and let me click my the Lakehouse where I want the data to reside. That's my existing Lakehouse. Next, and I want this. Let me show you something here. I'm just wondering, how can I create my own schema for the delta table? Everything now resides under the DBO, which is the database owner DBO schema. I'm not able to create any custom schema. One of the limitations with the delta table, but that's all right. Right now we are trying to load the CSV file as a file, so I'll be going ahead and clicking the files, the radio button for the files. I'll give it a name, the file name. I'll be loading that in the root, so that's okay. The name for the data, I'm not sure on this. I'll have to look at the documentation whether I need to give the extension as well or not. It's a comma delimited, so that's okay. CSV. Okay, that's all right. Let's start data transfer immediately. I've fast forwarded it, and the pipeline has completed successfully. Now that the pipeline is running and has it will complete successfully. We should be able to see in our Lakehouse view the file that we have currently loaded. So this is a successful pipeline run. All is fine. We should be able to see this file in our, the Lakehouse file view, the files in our Lakehouse Explorer. But I had a difficulty here. I was not able to see that file. So if you see my screen, I'm not able to, if I click on that particular uh, tree, I try to expand it and I'm not able to see it. If I refresh it, I'm still not able to see it. This is one of the UI improvement that they need to do. Uh, I'm not able to see it, but I later was able to find it where it is and how I need to reach that. It's not very intuitive, and I think Microsoft can improve that. Let's these are the options on the workspace level. You can upload your Power BI, PBIX files directly. Let me create a new data set. I will try to load a CSV file. Remember that untitled CSV file that we exported earlier. I'll try to load that and see if it appears in my files view in the Lakehouse Explorer. Importing data. Import successful. It's This is my notebook, and I am still not able to see the files in my uh, in the Lakehouse Explorer. So I'm not able to see it. That's a bit painful. But if you see, the AI has is generating me the code that I want to create, to read the files from the Delta tables. Fine, it was all good. The experience was really good. I'll be giving the feedback on the Microsoft for the Fabric product whenever they seek feedback to improve the product. I'll definitely be giving the this experience of mine, uh, that I was not able to find the files that I've loaded. I cross-checked my pipelines. I have cross-checked the data set load that I did manually, but I was still not able to find it under my Lakehouse Explorer view. But later I realized that it was one of the issue with the UI. It's not an issue, but it's just the experience. I tried to load the same data set again, and just to check whether it was completed successfully, and it did. I'm still unable to see it under the files. I tried multiple refreshes and I still could not see it. Anyways, if I show you the SQL endpoint of it, so on the right hand side top, you will see you can change the view to the SQL endpoint of the Lakehouse. And this is where you see the schemas and the queries. So under the DBO is everything that's getting loaded. And those are my queries and the shared queries. We have loaded everything under the DBO schema, the diabetes data and the holiday data. This is a SQL endpoint, which is a read only when it comes to Lakehouse. Anyways, on the right side, right hand top side, you can switch between the Lakehouse and the SQL endpoint for your Lakehouse. The default is the Lakehouse, and you'll have to change it for the SQL endpoint. Let's go back to my workspace, and here You can see all the different types of objects that we have created, whether it's data lakehouse or it is a data set or anything. uh, on the one lake data hub, this is the view that you get. You will be able to see your lake houses that you have created. I did try to load the same CSV file into my lakehouse, but it did complain about whether it already exists and you would like to overwrite. I did overwrite, but I was still not able to see it until I would tell you what happened. I'll tell you later when I was able to actually see the files. It gives you this, the same experience as your Synapse or your Databricks. The languages available is the same. PySpark, which is Python based, Spark, and then the Spark, Scala, and then the SQL and the R. So that's all available in your notebooks. You'll be able to use all of those that you have been already using. So very good, for in terms of the data scientist experience. Once I click on the files, if you see, it's not very intuitive. I clicked on it and I somehow noticed this files here, and then I tried to expand, and that's where my files were. So I can load them as Spark or Pandas. But the thing is, this was not very intuitive and I could not find it. I was not going through the documentation. I was trying to explore it on my own and I was not able to find it. I was able to load the COVID underscore data as as a pandas data frame. I tried doing that. This is one of the errors I received, but I had to reject it. So it says some changes were made to the notebook, and would you like to accept it or reject it? I tried to accept it, but it did not work, and then I had to reject it to make it work. So this is something that has will have to be looked into, what exactly it is and how it needs to be fixed. I tried to run the import pandas as pd and then import the data into the data frame using pd.read underscore csv. So I tried doing that and I kept getting this an external edit was detected. I had to reject it a few times before the UI allowed me to run that. So it did run in the end. If you see my screen, the first the display and function for the data frame is working, and I can see the data in it. So it's now available in the pandas data frame. I can click on it and do the same for Spark data frame, but it was not very intuitive, and I think the UI needs to be improved a bit. You can load the same as Spark. I did that. I got the same error again. I had to reject it and then I had to run that cell. It's doing the same spark.read.format, and the CSV is the format, and then this is where the AI is writing the code for you actually. So pretty good. You don't have to worry about writing the code and figuring out the path of the files and all those things. You can open it in Visual Studio Code. That's what the Microsoft Fabric said. I tried to install it and then I got an error that can't install release version of Synapse vscode.synapse. I did not try to troubleshoot that because I did not want to get you know uh, caught up in the fixing of the issues, so I just avoided that. Other than that, this thing worked. I was able to now understand that I need to click on that particular files to see the files. uh, I thought I would be clicking on the drop down and it will list all the files just like the tables, but it did not do that. It rather opened a new tab on the right side. So yeah, let's load this particular file as a delta table. So one of the file, I clicked on the file and then you can load that particular file as delta table. I did that. So it is loading this CSV file as a delta table in my lakehouse. It took some time, but I was able to load it as a table as a delta table. It is now done. You can see the delta underscore diabetes, and if I click on it, I should be able to see the data. So that's it. So we have loaded that file as a delta table in our lakehouse. That's good. Let's create our first fabric data warehouse. As we spoke earlier, the data warehouse is more suitable for the SQL engineers or the BI, the SQL based BI engineers. So we'll create a warehouse. It did not allow an underscore, so I had to. I tried a hyphen as well, but it did not allow me. So no special characters available in the name. So I used Fitness Geek Warehouse as the name, and it was fine. No underscores or a hyphen accepted. The security thing, yeah, I could qualify that. I mean, you can have labels, but I was not able to use that. So probably not available. That feature is not available yet. So I'm creating a warehouse. Now again, everything is sitting inside the same lake house, or you can say the one lake. But on the warehouse, you can only use the T-SQL to pull data in, or the to write data into. You'll be using SQL, which is the BI SQL engineers based, the old style data warehouse. So this is the data warehouse. If you see the properties, it gives you the SQL connection string, so you can connect using the Power BI desktop. That's all good. You can see the Explorer for the warehouse. You can get the schemas, then the queries. Looks like very similar to the the Lakehouse SQL endpoint, but here you can actually write queries to write data. This is writing a new SQL query. These are the schemas. You can create a new schema. If I click on this, I can create a new schema. I click on it and it opens a new window with the command, and I just need to change the name, the schema that I want. Once done, I can run it and it will create me the schema. That was smooth. It created me the schema that I wanted. So now if I want to create tables, I can use that schema. This is a way to create a visual query. So you can pull in the tables here and it will create me a query. So if you remember, the SSMS had used to have a not use, it still has the designer, and very much I think it is similar to that. Let's refresh this. That's okay. All right, so we will be loading some data in our warehouse. These are the templates that's available. So it gives you the templates for creating tables, creating views, or creating store procs. So very similar to what SSMS used to do. So if you right click on in SSMS and try to create a new store proc, it will give you a template on which you can create your store proc. So that's something that already existed in SSMS. Looks like they have imported that into this experience of SQL editor. I think this is enough of navigating through the data warehouse or the SQL editor. Let's try loading some data, create some data, and then let's go ahead and create some reports out of this. So let's click on get data on the on the home in home. Let's click on that new data pipeline. Let's name it, give it a name, and click create. So it will create a new pipeline where we'll be adding the activities to load data. We'll be using the same diabetes that the data set available, but the same connectors are now available for data warehouse. The look and feel is very similar to what we had in the Lakehouse. Everything is very similar to the experience that we had earlier. Anyways, we will be loading the data from public holidays. Yeah, that data set is much more, like it's more, how would I say, it has more sense to it rather than the data that we had for diabetes. It was more of a numbers. This data set, this is the preview. We'll click next. Let's click next. Select the data warehouse. If it doesn't appear, you can refresh and then click next again. Load to a new table or load to an existing table. Uh, right now I don't have a table. If you have created the schema, you have the schema and you have created the table, you can use that, or you can load to a new table. This is where I'm able to provide the schema as well. So I can give it this, like if I want to move that into the DBO, I can just type the schema and then the table name, and then the column mappings. If you want to change something, you can. If you want to remove some columns, you can do that. So all looked good to me. I tried to just delete one of the last columns and try to add it myself. This is where you click and it will create a new column. I don't want that. I tried to change the data type, but I could not. It's AI based mostly, so it doesn't allow me to change the data type. I removed it and I tried to pull that column again to see if it will allow me to change the data type. But unfortunately, I was not able to change the data type. It came up as date time. I was satisfied and I just moved to next. Copy command settings, default values, enable staging. This is where you will have a staging area in your data lakehouse or the data lake. And yeah, when there is a lot of data to be moved, usually you should always have a staging area. And I'll check this box to start the job immediately. And the pipeline has completed, so the data load is now done. I mean, it is not completed, but it's running and it should be completed. I'll just fast forward this and it should be completed. Once done, we should have the data loaded in our data warehouse. We will go through the data that we have loaded and see what's available, and how we can just write SQL queries to move data around. So the pipeline has completed successfully. We have loaded the data, the holidays underscore data as a table. It has the rows 69k rows have been written. Let's go back to our data warehouse. Loading your warehouse. On the left hand side you will see this there's a table under the DBO schema, and if I click on it, you can select top 100 rows. You can create, you can drop and create. So those options are available. You can just go ahead and and navigate through your SQL editor. The properties, it's if you see, the format is delta, so at the end the table is a delta table, and the type is a user table, the URL, the ABFS path. That's all right. Let's go back. This is the data we have. We can create a report out of it. It will open a new page, but I don't want that. I'll use a report later. You can create views as well. So there are lots of options. It's a vast world of Microsoft Fabric. It will take me days to explore everything, but for now let me just go ahead and create a Power BI report from the data that we loaded in our data warehouse. I'll select the Fitness Geek warehouse as my data set, and then you can either auto create or you can create it manually. This time the pre-select data worked, and I was able to select the data that I want, and it created me in the AI based report. It looked all right. I did not try to see whether it is suitable for an organization or anything. I did not see how feasible this report is, but I just wanted to see the how the AI works to create an auto created table. It looked all right. Probably like in future you'll have much more sensitive, much more uh, you know how would I say, a proper report out of it. But for now, the manual one is what I would rely on. So I can go back. I can still click on the same. Click on my new report. Click on my data warehouse, and instead of auto create, I would create it from blank. So I'm just going to create a basic report out of it, a table with all the data in it, and then just a bar chart, and yeah, that should be enough for this particular demo. More than a demo, actually, it's I'm learning myself on the fly. I would like to see how many countries, the count of holidays for each country till now. So let me do that, this, and if I select this holiday name, instead of legend, if it goes to x-axis and I just do a count testing. Okay, so that's all right. That's good enough for a basic report. We have tested this, this is a report coming out of our data warehouse, the data that we loaded in our data warehouse. It looks quite good. I'll save it. Report saved. Let's go back to our SQL editor. And here, let's try to create a new table. I'm just trying to check whether this works fine or not. So I'm just creating a random table. I don't want to, yeah, that should be all right. I can give it a name, or you can create from here. Okay, it creates me the code, which is good. That is all right. If I click run, it should create me a new table. If I refresh this, it should show me a new delta table. Okay, that is good. Now if I want to try, I would like to load some data from one table into another using tsql. So if I do a select star into and then a table name, let's see if that works. It should work. I mean, this all the basic tsql should work for any dml operations. So let's do that. Select star into the table name from this particular table. I wish this drag and drop worked like it works in SSMS, but it didn't. I'll have to type, or maybe I'll just copy it from here. Yeah, I could do with some IntelliSense here. So anyways, I'll just write down the entire table name, then I'll run it. It should create a new table with the same schema and load the data as well. So it's doing a select star into, and it has completed successfully. Now I should go ahead and refresh my tables. It looks all right. I can see the data. I mean, I can see the table. Let me see the data, and the data is available as well. So it all worked. So this is basic walkthrough or an experience of the SQL editor available in Microsoft Fabric. We used it to load data, to manipulate data, and it all worked. It was not a read only, as we have seen earlier. So that's all from our learning experience, our first learning experience with Microsoft Fabric. Thanks for watching and keep supporting.